Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of This Week at the Curvy Cauldron. This is episode 4. Yes, we are doing it. Yeah, so what are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk about two things. One of them is black rice. Yes, black rice. It's I don't know if it originated in China, but I know a lot of Chinese people eat black rice, and it's called the emperor's rice because of how expensive it was, and back in the day it's still expensive. And I've heard some rumors that some people go and take regular brown rice and dye it to be black rice, and to make like fake black rice and then sell on websites. I don't know how true or untrue that is, but I've looked into it, and I guess there's actually rice that's farmed as black rice. And the ones I've gotten have, when you cook them, the color does bleed out of them. And one thing I've noticed though about black rice, specifically for me and according to my tastes, is that I feel personally that black rice is more for savory. Like if you're going for savory dishes, it's not something you need to try with pepper soup. I mean, you can try it. I tried it with pepper soup. It was okay, but it didn't give that vavavoom. So it's something that I feel goes more with sweet instead of savory. So they use it. It's more of a dessert rice, and a lot of the recipes I see, a lot of people use black rice as dessert rice. And so if you try to eat it with like a stew, I've tried that too. It was okay. It wasn't anything mind blowing. But if you use something like, let's say, you cook it with salt, obviously, and some kind of um maybe something fruity. 50 cents, get out of my head. Something fruity. But maybe something, yeah, something fruity, I guess. Or let's say something citrusy. So you introduce something citrusy, something that has a fruit taste to it. Of course, you have to do something that pairs well with it, of course. And let's say put some avocado on the side. Now we're cooking. I feel like that would go more with black rice. I don't really have any of those ingredients right now at home to try it, but if I ever try it, I will always let you guys know about the recipe. So yeah, that is it on black rice. The second thing I want to discuss is that saying or phrase or idiom, if you will, charity begins at home. And I want to discuss it and connect it to abundance and the notion of knowing that more is coming to you or better is out there, or having having that fullness within you, I guess. So I want to connect that saying charity begins at home to abundance in the context of not just abundance, but in the context of doing for you and not being like knowing the difference between um generosity and self-sacrificing. And what do I mean by this? Have you ever seen, and this is from personal observation in close relation to this particular person, or not just particular person, actually a couple people that lived around our area when we were growing up. So I'm not gonna name them or say things about them, but I'm going to give a general example that gets my point across. So let's say you have a neighbor, and this neighbor has a home. This neighbor is the definition of a rich man, a big man. Back home, we call them a big man. So a rich man, Dogu Parara or whatever. But this man is the definition of that, right? And he lives in a in what people would call a mansion. And when you go into the mansion, you see that this mansion is actually in a state of disrepair. Like water is leaking from the roof has heaved in a certain part of the house, But this man is still doing a lot of charity work, giving a lot of, sponsoring people's education, paying people, giving people money to start businesses, buying gifts for people, doing things for people, like, and not just doing things for people, but doing it big for them. It, it gets to a point where I guess you can argue and say that this man, doesn't really care about money and all these things. He just wants to help people. He just has a heart for the people and all of that. But then the problem becomes this man has a wife and he has kids. These kids depend on him and they live in that house that the roof is heaving in and water is dripping and leaking and all of that. Now, it's okay for this man to have his mindset. He doesn't care about, all he cares about is helping people. But sometimes I wonder, like, the duty this man has to his kids, like, what kind of mindset is this teaching the children this man is raising? Because they see their dad do all these things, but then when it comes to doing for the home that they live in, um, this man is not doing it. And another background on their dad is, classic, pulled himself up from the bootstrap story, and a lot of people helped him get there. And when he got there, he felt like now he has to pay what they call the black tax. And not just that, he didn't want to burn, quote unquote, what the Chinese people say, crossing over the bridge and cutting off the bridge so that no one crosses. He didn't want to do that. He wanted to help people and do things for people, right? So again, we are from the outside looking in, observing this man and his family's dynamic. We don't know the whole story, but looking in, this is what it looks like. And seeing this, sometimes you begin to ask yourself, like, at what point does generosity become self-sacrificing? Because the message, again, this man may really not care about anything, and all of us have different psychology. Like, I'm not going to sit here and diagnose somebody or tell somebody how to spend their money or whatever. Do you? But then when you look at that man, you're wondering, what kind of mindset is this building in his children? What exactly is this communicating? Now, from outside again, looking in, I can start saying, okay, this is really building a thing of letting the kids know, oh, well, you don't deserve this because you've been blessed with things. And because you've been blessed with this, you feel that you don't deserve it. So you feel like, okay, other people are more deserving. I need to give other people. And the society we live in praises this kind of person. Oh, he's the type to give you the shirt off his back. He's the type to give and give and give until he dies. That kind of thing. So I just gave you a description of this quote unquote man. Now, when I was growing up, I have seen a version of that man in certain people that were around me growing up, like some neighbors, some other other acquaintances, family acquaintances, things like that. So I have observed, you know, situations like that. Not exactly the picture I painted for you, because remember, I said I wasn't going to put people's stories that I know personally out there. But this picture that I painted for you is something that can help you to start thinking about some of the situations some of these people put themselves in. Situations where they just can't even build, wealth for their family, for their children to, uh, you know, use to stand on their feet finally, because they are stuck in this cycle of unworthiness that is praised as, oh my God, he's so giving. Oh my God, she's so giving. Oh my God, this person is so giving. And it's so funny because a lot of that doesn't just start because this man grew up. And I know that some people are innately kind, but some of that mindset is programmed young. A lot of, you see people, I'm a first child, I'm a first daughter, but you see a lot of first daughters complaining about this thing of, this cycle of doing for others, sacrificing yourself, giving, 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 until you slump and fall. A lot of families perpetuate that in the way they raise, whether first daughters or first sons or first kids or even last kids, whatever, maybe the kid that's the most responsible in the family. Some families perpetuate this in the way, raising somebody to be quote unquote a son or daughter of the community. But then people forget that community works both ways. Like, you pour into me, I pour into you. But a lot of times, that quote unquote example of a man finds himself in the midst of communities, or a community where he's mainly the one pouring, or she's mainly the one pouring, and no one is pouring back into them. Now, that particular brand of man or woman can be, maybe nothing really matters to them. They're the Mother Teresa or Father Teresa themselves. They just want to give, 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 give. They don't really care. But then when they have added responsibilities like children, now you start wondering, what exactly is that, seeing that modeled behavior telling their children? Or on the flip side, this person will give, 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 but just be so resentful. And where does that resentment go? It doesn't go to the people they are giving. It goes to the family that they live with. Because, they give, 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 give. And then anytime a member of that family wants something, they are so angry. They are so resentful. They are so bitter. And you're wondering, where is this coming from? You're looking at them interact with their kids. You're just like, you just gave this other person $60,000 or whatever, and then your kid is asking for, I don't know, for you to take them to Chicken Republic, and you're going crazy. But it happens. But anyways, that's just a food for thought, something to think about. That thing with abundance and charity beginning at home. And I think because it's something so routine, we don't really think of it like that. For example, let's not talk about this fictional man and the fictional observations. Let me bring it personally to myself. For example, now that I am beginning to try to change some behaviors and think of, do new things, one of the things I've started looking at is, if I make an extra buck a month, or I pick up overtime, work some overtime, get some extra buck, and maybe I save a lot of money and I have an extra change. Now I am thinking, okay, I'm trying to ingrain it in. I'm not perfecting this. So before I buy that new dress, because I like a new dress, I like a new, a new powder or something. Before I buy that, now I look at my surroundings. Do I need a new pillow? Because it's something so routine, like a new pillow, a new kettle, a new pot to cook in. I don't know. There's just something about the routineness of those things that sometimes they don't cross our mind, and we chase and chase and spend money on, let's say, a new dress. And it doesn't have to be going and buying yourself a Miu Miu bag or whatever. No. Sometimes it really is the basic routine things. Sometimes it really is, using that extra money and going to maintain your car. Go get that oil change, go rotate those tires, go If you need new tires, buy those tires with that extra money instead of spending that same whatever extra money it is on some new dress or some new whatever. And it's so funny because now I'm starting to reflect and change some of these behaviors. I think back to a time in college where, true story, gosh, this is so embarrassing. But did you know that there was a time in college and money was tight in college for a lot of people, including moi, but one of those things, was I'll buy I'll survive on ramen noodles for, let's say, a month. But then if I make any extra money that month and everything, let's say rent has been paid, I will use that extra money to buy my Korean 10 step skincare routine. Hey, holy chill, shame. I mean, I'm not ashamed of it, but my God, it's a behavior that needs to be changed. Because what was stopping me from, let's say, using that money to buy, I don't know, some, let's say, vegetables to make okra soup or something, or like a very nourishing meal, and portion it out for that week that I survived on, or that month that I survived on ramen noodles. What was stopping me from doing that? And then if there's extra money, why not use that extra money to buy like a serum instead of buying the whole 10 step skincare routine products? Why not use that extra money to buy a serum or to buy maybe just the moisturizer? Like, sometimes I remember that I'm just like, oh my goodness, they really got me. Yeah, but that's something to think about. Oh, and don't forget to buy my book, Tasteful Hypocrisy. It is now available on Amazon.com. And actually, one of the things I talked about today, there's a poem in here called First Daughter. And one of the things I talked about today is discussed in that poem. So yeah, if you buy the book and read it and get to that poem, let me know what you think. Okay? Thank you so much for watching this week at the Curvy Cauldron. We are now in episode 4, and I am so lucky and happy and grateful to all of you for watching, for subscribing, for liking, for sharing, for commenting. I love you. Thank you.